Welcome. My name's Colleen.
And my name is May. Welcome, returning viewers, and for those of you watching us for the first time, we're so glad you could join us. Now, on today's video, we'll be talking about the safety of lye. Now, it's not a very exciting topic, but it is an important topic. And as those of you who know us know that Colleen and I have a knitting podcast, but we're also starting to dabble into cold processed soap. We're brand new at this, but we have done our research before we started because with the education of knowing what lye does, gives us a little bit more confident, and we can attest to that because we've made a few batches of soap, and because we did our research and our education, we've become a little bit better, not better, but maybe more educated and a little bit more respective of lye,
Right.
And not so scared of it, but respect it.
So I think when we started, very first time we started with soap, we were
Scared.
And that's
Intimidated.
Okay.
We were intimidated.
Exactly, because that was the thing. We could handle all the oils, we could handle
Right.
all that stuff. But what about this lye? You're going to be creating this caustic substance. What are you going to do? And so we were very careful and educated. We watched Jerica Zimmerman. We watched Ellen Ruth. We watched Ellie's Handmade Soap. We watched Holly's soap making. We watched Katie from Royalty Soaps.
Brambleberry. A lot of the professionals out there, like I said, we're brand new to this.
Exactly.
So, and we've read books.
Lots of books.
So we encourage you to do your own research. Now, first of all, I guess we could start off by asking ourselves, what exactly is lye?
So lye is sodium hydroxide. If you're making cold processed soap or hot processed soap, you use sodium hydroxide. If you're making a liquid soap, then you use potassium hydroxide. Both things are lye, it's just a different chemical. They're both create caustic substances.
And today we're going to concentrate on cold processed soap because that's what we've been working with and we're going to be working with.
We'll be using sodium hydroxide, but the same things take place for potassium hydroxide as well. Now, before you start working with sodium hydroxide, you need to print off the MSDS, Material Safety Data Sheet. Now, my understanding is there's some other letters if you're working in some other part of the world, but that has all of the things that you need to be careful of. It tells you what to happen if there's a spill, if somebody gets it on their skin, all of the possibilities.
Right, and also the phone number would be handy to have when you're close to you when you're working with lye also.
Exactly. So a poison control center, I think, is what we would talk about in Ontario. But keep a number on the fridge. Keep the MSDS sheet there. Have the number there so people can help you out if you need that.
Now, mixing water with lye creates an exothermic reaction that causes and increases the temperature. And that, again, the temperatures can get up to 200 degrees.
Fahrenheit, absolutely.
No, Fahrenheit, sorry, but we work in Fahrenheit, but sometimes people work in Celsius.
Exactly.
And I should know what Celsius because we live in Canada.
But we're old.
But we're old school and we work in Fahrenheit.
That's right.
So this mixture that you mix with the water and the lye is caustic, and the mixture creates fumes that you shouldn't inhale. And so you always pour the lye into the water, never the other way around. And you always pour in a well-ventilated area. What Colleen and I do is into half water, half ice cubes. And we use distilled water, so we use distilled ice cubes. And we mix it in that. It really keeps the fumes down. And we also work in a well-ventilated area. And we also wear the mask. So do you want to show a mask?
Sure, let's take a look.
And now some of them wear the big ventilated masks, which is probably the most appropriate one, but we just use that because we take all the other precautions.
Exactly. This is a 3M8247 is what that is, but it definitely covers everything, and we've got our goggles on. We'll look at those a little bit later. And I've never, to be honest with you, noticed fumes at all.
No.
Never at all, because I think the ice helps out, just like you say, and I think we're really careful.
And I don't think our lye gets up to 200 degrees because of the ice. It'll probably only go to about 180 or something like that.
So you have to worry about the lye, and you also have to manage your environment. So we talked about a well-ventilated spot, which is what you need, but you also need to make sure that you've got space to work in. You should be near a sink, because if for some reason you get lye or even soap batter on your skin, then you're going to need to rinse it. The magic number is 15 minutes. You're supposed to rinse it for 15 minutes. And it's really easy to get soap batter on you if you're not careful. You have to have your PPE. May is always good. She does the cleanup after. And there was a time that I had taken my gloves off and went to hand you something, and I didn't realize that there was still soap batter on there. And I went, bye. I'm gone. So I went in to the bathroom and just started rinsing. I was fine. I didn't get burned, but because I went there right away, I thought I was okay. But anywhere near anything, any piece of thing, put those gloves back on.
Right, even during the cleanup is important.
Exactly,
right?
that's
right.
for sure. So you need to have fresh water available, ventilation. The other thing is you have to talk to your family. For May and I, this is the family that we are, so we talk to each other because we're working together. But if there are kids or pets, you need no distractions. You can't be taking a lye solution, you're stirring and turn like this.
Right.
Like, you can't do that. So make sure kids are out of the way, pets are out of the way, and you just can have no distractions. And anybody who's working with soap needs to have PPE.
Right.
When we make our soap, the containers that we use are polypropylene plastic. So if you look on the bottom of a container to know if it's that, you'll see a little triangle with kind of arrows going around with a 5 in the middle. So there's lots of different plastic. Now, these are more scientific ones to use in a lab. We've got 3 different sizes of these. So when we're making our lye, we put the water in this one that I'm holding. We measure the sodium hydroxide in that, and then we're going to pour the sodium hydroxide into this. So everything's polypropylene plastic. We're good to go. We mix it. This can work up to a high temperature, no problem. And so these are safe. Now, let's talk about glass, because it's a little controversial.
Right. So glass, now Brambleberry said that they've used glass forever and they have no problem with it.
Right.
Mrs. Soap and Clay has done research and they've had no problem with it. Other people say that it kind of...
The lye itself, the sodium hydroxide or the lye solution, can actually etch the glass. And so what
weakens it, maybe?
Weakens it, right? And so at some point in time it could break or shatter. So we don't take any chances.
Right.
We
just use this, or we use stainless steel.
Right.
And that's what we do. But glass can be, we're not scientists.
Yes,
we're not
so it's important that you do your own research.
Yes.
We've done our research. We've looked at it. We're using polypropylene
That's
plastic.
a good point. Now, and also when you're stirring lye, and you've got your mixture there and you're stirring up, it's important that you use stainless steel or silicone. Mm-hmm. Because you can't use like tin or metal or aluminum with lye. So it's
those are your 2 choices.
Yep. So those are great to have to stir
now,
with.
One thing to take a look, you will see in some YouTube soap makers that they might use a silicone spatula that has wood here. The wood can actually weaken with the sodium hydroxide, the lye solution, and so we've chosen not to use something that has wood there. But once again,
your choice.
Do your research.
Do your own research. Yeah. Adding the sodium hydroxide into the water is a lye solution. Combining and mixing the lye solution into the oils is called emulsification, which causes a chemical reaction called saponification. When all the lye has transformed and there's no lye that you have, then you have soap. You basically have the lye solution and the water, and the oils, which makes a soap at the end of the day. Right. And then when you're all said and done and your soap has cured over a few days or however long it takes, 24 or 48 hours, and there'll be no lye left in your soap. And then how Colleen and I do this is that we use a pH strip and we put a little bit of water and then we check, and the pH should be between 7 and 10.
And that's what we do to be safety. So once again, lye safety. Because sometimes if you have not measured things correctly, you may end up with a soap that is lye heavy. And so it will have either, you'll see situations of why it's lye heavy, but we always check the pH because we're not going to be touching it or even setting it to cure if it's lye heavy.
Now there is an old school way to do that, Colleen, is where people
Are
touch
you
it
old
with,
school?
Yeah. People touch it with their tongue and it gives them a zap, and then they
And what do you mean by a zap?
I've never done it, so I don't know. But
I think we were watching somebody and they explained that it's like when you have a metal filling. So if you're old, you'll have metal fillings, and you put a piece of metal to your metal filling.
Right. And that's what it feels like.
That's zap.
We don't do that. We prefer this. We prefer the pH test.
We're not going to touch soap to our tongue. We're good.
Now, we'll talk a little bit about PPE. We've already talked about the mask that Colleen and I wear. The only time Colleen and I wear the mask is when we're putting the lye into the water and making the lye solution. And once that's complete and the lye is in a safe space, we take off our masks, because then there's no fumes after that when it gets mixed in with the oils.
Right, and we're in a well-ventilated area, so we're in good shape.
And some of the other PPE are glasses. Like we wear goggles. Well, we wear glasses, so we have to wear the bigger goggles.
This isn't enough. It won't do it. So I'm just going to show you. May's going to be my describer here. There we go.
All right. So these are good because they go underneath, so you're not going to get lye in underneath here or on the sides. And they also have ventilation here, and that lets them not fog up. So I don't even notice.
No, and they go right over your glasses, so it makes it so much nicer. Now, we were watching a video by Jerica Zimmerman, who's the owner of Quench Soap. And what had happened was, these vents help us so we don't get fogged up. Hers fogged up. She lifted it for a second, got a splatter of soap batter, into her eye. She rinsed. Anyway, it was a long story. You can see her video on that.
She went to the hospital. They rinse it with water. She went to the hospital the next day. They had to rinse it with water. She had to go to an eye specialist and yada yada. So it's better that you wear eye safety if nothing else.
Exactly. And I would suggest getting the vented ones, because that was what happened. She couldn't see what she was doing, so she just lifted it for a second. And it only takes a second. That's for sure.
These weren't that expensive, and I think they were gotten from Amazon.
Yes, absolutely. Nope, they're great.
Yep. And then next it'd be gloves, and what we have been tending to use right now is the kitchen rubber gloves, and I like them because they give you some length. They say you should usually wear them up to here, but I like these because they give you some right up here, especially if you're doing the dishes and everything else. I find that up here is nice. Now we can also wear the disposable gloves.
So these are nitrile gloves. Now, it's hard to find small ones, and I found them. So we bought some from Walmart that were one size fits all. No, it doesn't. So it's important that you get ones. I talked to May. I said, "Do you want me to?" She tried these on. They were just a little bit too small. But if you're doing any fine work, these would be great. But you can see, I mean, I wear a long sleeve shirt, which we'll talk about in a second. And so this would be okay. But this has got much more protection.
Right. Now, some people say that they'd rather not wear a long sleeve shirt. That's what they recommend, is the long sleeve shirt, but there's other reasons why they don't. We, as Colleen and I, have chosen to wear long sleeve shirts, and which has been helpful.
Right.
But that, again, that's your research, your choice.
Exactly. And the nice thing about these, as I'm getting it partly off, is that it just turns itself inside out, and you get take them off easily.
Right. So we're kind of covered then. We've got the mask, the glasses, and
long sleeve
shirts, and also your shoes and socks, because if you drop it on your feet or if you spill some on your foot.
So closed-toed shoes, socks, right? And long pants.
Yes.
So no shorts.
And you've already talked about the environment and having no kids and pets and that type of thing.
Yeah, we don't want the distractions as well.
Right.
That's for sure.
Now, this is not a necessary thing, and it's nothing to do with the PPE. Is Colleen and I choose to wear a hairnet also, just because of we just don't want hair to get into the soap. But that's got nothing. You don't have to wear a hairnet. That's not anything you have to wear.
Now, that being said, we were watching a video,
that's true, yes.
And somebody who had good goggles on, thank goodness, their soap batter splashed. They ended up with soap batter in their hair.
Right.
And on the outside of their goggles. So they basically had to take the goggles off and go have a shower and wash their hair.
And she didn't realize that she had so much in her hair.
Exactly.
Until she saw herself on the video or something.
Yeah, this isn't plastic. It's not like it's a shower cap, but it gives you a little bit of protection.
Yeah, you can wear a scarf or a shower cap or a hairnet. And again, we already mentioned about cleanup, and it's important to keep the glasses on and to also keep your gloves on and during cleanup. And also during cleanup, what I do after I'm all finished, I make sure that I make up some vinegar and water, and I wipe down all the surfaces. They never suggest, like other videos have said other things, but never put vinegar and water. If you spill it on you, never use vinegar for that.
No.
Vinegar is only used for cleanup, the countertops and that type of thing.
Right. So if you look on the MSDS, all it says is rinse under cold water for 15 minutes.
Right.
But you need to check with the lye or sodium hydroxide that you have.
And speaking of that, when Jerica Zimmerman, the girl that we were talking about that went to the hospital, they just kept cleaning her eyes out with water and rinsing
and she actually ended up with a saline solution or something having to go into it.
It was not a pleasant experience. So to avoid that, just take the precautions. Now, Colleen and I have made about 8 or 9 batches of soap already, and we just feel a little bit more confident and not as afraid of lye because we know all the precautions that we have to take, and we feel a little bit more confident, and we hope that will happen for you too. Now, storage-wise, Colleen, do you want to talk a little bit about storing?
Exactly. As far as storage goes, you need to make sure that it is in a secure, safe place. So if you have small children or if you have pets, you need to probably lock it up. It would be a good idea to keep the MSDS sheet with it, but you need to keep it in a dry, safe place.
In its own container too, right?
And in its own container. We leave the lye near to something called a damp trap, which absorbs moisture and odors because lye tends to absorb the moisture in the air. And what that can do is get you some little puddle of liquid that is caustic. And so you don't want to have that. So keep it in a dry, safe place. Lock it up if you need it. Label it. Keep it in its original container. That's going to help out a lot.
Right.
So the whole idea with Lye Safety is that you're safe with lye and you respect the lye and keep it well. We have ours in a nice high place and we don't have little kids and we don't have pets, but we're still very safe with it.
We hope you found this video helpful when you're working with your cold process soap. It's important that you do your own research and find out what works for you and what's out there and the information. Colleen and I are not professionals. We're brand new at this, and we're looking forward to a journey of soap making, and we hope that you follow us along. And if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. If you're into knitting, you can watch our knitting podcast. Until next time,